Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers preview as the Pittsburgh Steelers are gearing up for the Philadelphia Eagles Week 5, Heinz Field, 1 p.m. kickoff. That's right. A whopping 5,500 fans will be in attendance waving their terrible Taz, and it should be a fun time. Joining me, as always, on this Steelers preview podcast is other co-editor, Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave?
How's it going, Jeff? Like we said, like someone brought up in the live chat on the Scobro show, 1,500 or 5,500 fans. That means 11,000 terrible towels because they need to have one in each hand for all the people that can't be there.
Bryan Anthony Davis, how are you?
Bing, bing. Just like in It's a Wonderful Life, every time a bell rings, a Tennessee Titan test positive for COVID.
Oh, he went there. Oh my God. We're going to get to that. I want to start off though with the fans, because I've just saying that in the intro. I was like, we should talk about this a little bit. News was this week. This is big news, I think, for me and for any Steeler fan, just to try to get back to somewhat of normalcy, if you want to call it that. 5,500 fans. Now that the governor, Tom Wolf, said that 7,500 was the new outdoor limit, but that 7,500 includes coaches, players, personnel, anyone that's in the building. So it's going to be about 5,500 fans. Dave, you're a season ticket holder. Reportedly, from what I read, everything's going to be in the lower bowl. There's not going to be anyone in the upper decks. All 5,500 fans will be in the lower bowl. My first question for you all is, if you had a ticket, would you go? And the next question is do you think that it'll be noticeable? Not so much from a visual, but maybe from an auditory. Dave, go ahead.
I think from a player standpoint, it will be noticeable because, when Bud Dupree turns to the crowd and starts raising his hands, there'll actually be someone in the crowd that could start yelling. You know what I mean? When they're trying to get the fans jacked up, it's not going to be super loud. I think they'll play Renegade with this many fans. I think they'll do it since they
played Renegade in an empty stadium.
And then they didn't the next week.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I think they should go back to it. It's going to be, let's just say this. If the Steelers didn't play 2 games at Heinz Field without fans, they would be noticeable about how few fans there are. Yeah. But after playing 2 games with no fans, it's going to be noticeable that they are there.
Would you go if you had a ticket?
If I had a ticket, I would go. And
okay.
I'm kind of bummed that as long as I'm feeling well and everything, and everything's
obviously
safe there.
Yeah.
I just feel like normally the biggest thing you have to deal with is the crowd. But if you're not dealing with the crowd, there's only 5,500 people there. You don't have to worry about. I wouldn't have to take the Clipper. I wouldn't have to worry about parking.
Right.
I wouldn't have to worry about all those other things. And I feel like it would be so different and so spaced out that it would be very unusual, but kind of nice.
Do you think the Kylo Ren helmet would suffice for a face covering?
Saying I have to find the right gate sometimes to sneak it in because it depends on the security person whether they'll let me in with it or not.
Oh, really?
I've gotten turned back. Every time my dad's with me, I get turned back. So, that's why I try different places. So
there you go.
I don't. Well, yeah, I thought about wearing that to the grocery store to see if that would have worked this summer, but
you totally should. No one will say a word to you. No one will say a word to you. Bryan Anthony Davis, what's going on? Would you go to the game? And if so, do you think 5,500 people is going to even make a difference, or is it going to be like a literal drop in the bucket?
To quote Jimmy the Yinzer, Yins guys going downtown and that to see the Steelers. They're taking on the Philadelphia Eagles and that. You know what? I'm going down. I've had therapy already. I ain't afraid of no COVID and that.
That's so bad.
Yeah, that's a good
that's worse. That's worse than the Australian. That really is.
Now, you know what? I'm not ready yet, but I think it's great. Go ahead, be in the stadium. It's going to provide a boost for the Steelers. It really is. If you remember back on July 4th when Michael Beck, I think his name is, and myself, Bryan Anthony Davis, we interviewed Jordan Dangerfield. And he said, hey, man, we asked him, when Renegade comes on, does that mean anything to you guys? It's like those fans, those towels, when we hear it, they pump us up. And so you're asking, is 5,500 fans a drop in the bucket? Will they make a difference? Well, back in the day, there used to be something called a live album. Now, kids out there, an album is also an LP for long play. And what happened was artists would do a live album to go ahead and have a concert experience on your turntable or phonograph, if you know what that is. So we didn't have iTunes back then. There wasn't any CDs in that. So what I'm saying is when you put that on, sometimes those were small stadiums, like especially when Steve Martin or a comedian would do a small venue, but the crowd was loud. So it's not going to matter that there's only 5,500 people. It's going to be loud. Those fans are going to be heard. They're going to make a difference. Like I said, I'm not ready yet. I hope to be soon. But I think if you're ready, and like Dave said, if you're feeling good and you're ready to do it, go ahead, do it. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I'm glad that they are back in it.
I'm excited to see fans just in seats. I don't even care if they're just spaced out. You watch teams like, let's see here. Kansas City has had fans all season. I believe Cleveland has had fans all season. Teams in Florida have had fans all season. That's Miami, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville. And there's a couple other places that have also had. Dallas has had fans so far this year. You definitely can feel that there is some energy there. And I think that's what the players have missed. Even things like the introductions, they just kind of jog out on the field. There's no one there. It seems really strange. I really wish they could give out those plastic megaphones to every fan so that it would just kind of help amplify the sound even more. But I'm sure that's against protocol of some kind. But nonetheless, the other news this week, which was ongoing, and it got me so fired up that I did an entire breaking news podcast on it, was the fact that the Tennessee Titans are the biggest Jags in the NFL. And I apologize for last week when we were on this show and we said, well, look, we get it. It's the virus. It's contagious. It's, the protocols are in place. Heck, Dave and I did an entire Let's Ride podcast on Monday morning about how the protocols and all these things and who should be to blame if there's an infraction. And we all said if the protocols are good, it's up to the teams to enforce it. Well, what's come out since then is that the Titans did nothing to enforce them. And I'm talking from last week, 2 weeks ago, all the way up until where we are right now, Thursday night, leading up into week 5. Let's backpedal a little bit. The linebackers coach, don't know his name, don't care. He was around somebody that it was positive for COVID-19 and did not tell the Titans. I guess that's part of their protocol in the report. Do you know anyone that says positive? He said no, and he had it. So that's kind of what started everything. Then the players weren't all wearing masks after video surveillance from the NFL said that they weren't following the protocols within the facility. It gets even better. It's like an infomercial, but wait, there's more. Players, after they were told to not practice in person, no in-person gatherings, you are shut down, everything's virtual. They're going to private school fields in Nashville and holding workouts, in-person workouts. And from last thing I heard, I can't remember who it was. Someone like Albert Breer or Tom Pelissero said that it wasn't just the main workout that was reported that we covered on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com of Ryan Tannehill and some skill position players. There were other workouts from other players. This outbreak continues with the Tennessee Titans, so much so that they just announced before we went on the air that their game against the Buffalo Bills was moved to next Tuesday in hopes that they can get their act together and have a few days of no positive tests, even though they had 2 positive tests today, Thursday. Dave, after all this stuff has gone on, what are your thoughts?
Well, if there's a positive test tomorrow, the game's off. How they handle that, we will see. But it's just what we said a week ago. I still am under that impression, and that was we should not have jumped all over the Tennessee Titans like some did, and then we're right and are like, look at me, I was right. You know what? You jumped to a conclusion. Just because your conclusion was right without your data doesn't mean you were right to do it. You just so happen to have the correct hypothesis. We waited for the data. We gave them the benefit of the doubt, only to find out that this is not an NFL problem. This is a Titans problem.
Yes. I agree. And all these people, and there's some in the live chat right now that are saying the season won't last. It's not going to. This isn't an NFL issue. This is a Tennessee Titans issue right now. You look at the New England Patriots, Cam Newton positive, Gilmore positive. No one else is testing positive. No one. And so they're adjusting and the protocols are going into place. Bryan, what are your thoughts after hearing all this?
Let me tell you this. You cannot punish this team and reward the victims unequally. It is just not fair. And when I'm saying victims, these are the Steelers are victims of the Tennessee Titans because their season has been uprooted in a way. Look, I don't want to forfeit, but if you go ahead and you say, all right, Buffalo Bills, you're the second ones affected, and now we've already pushed the first game back, so we're just going to give you the forfeit, and the Steelers, you guys have to play it out. Well, the odds are right now that the Tennessee Titans might not even be getting to week 7 with the Steelers. If this keeps on going, they were negligent, and it's got to stop. And I think you could punish them with draft picks. What does that mean to the people that actually did the crime? Nothing. They need to look at this as who was patient zero and who let the cat out of the bag and started the problem. When I say not who told on them, but who really helped spread this and who was involved in it. And if you were involved in saying, you don't have to wear a mask, screw what the NFL says, don't worry about it. No, you're negligent. If you were part of the ones that were ignoring the NFL order and going to a private school where their students are, and you could possibly infect innocent people there, you are negligent. And so they've got to be punished and punished severely. You want to take a draft pick away, that does not punish an individual player. The players that were involved need to be fined. And also, like I said, you can't just take the Buffalo Bills and say, okay, you guys get the free game. Steelers, you have to earn it when you're the first ones that got uprooted. They're not going to be playing next Tuesday. It's not going to happen because the Tennessee Titans did not nip this in the bud. So it's going to be ongoing until they are punished and punished severely. You know what I say? I say you take this entire season for the Tennessee Titans and say, boys, I'm sorry, you are done. And you know why you're done? Because it has to be treated. Everybody else that has been a part of the NFL that's been doing it right should not be punished because of their chicanery and their negligence. I have no problem with Mike Vrabel, but if he was a part of it, he needs to be fined, not only fined, but suspended for an entire year. They did it because of Bountygate. Remember, Sean Payton lost an entire year because of Bountygate, or 8 games or something. Greg Williams might have lost a whole year. And that was just a bounty. This is a whole lot worse. This is public health. This is a pandemic that we have been facing as a nation since March, actually before then. And you are being negligent and you don't care because, hey, we're going to get our competitive advantage anyway. Any way we want it. This goes all the way to the top. This is just not a few renegades. This is everybody. All right, you're checking your watches. I'm done. I need to take a breath.
Okay, but hold on.
I was worried about you, man, because you didn't breathe.
After all of that, all of that, if you are the commissioner, Roger Goodell, you find out all this information that we talked about prior to you going on your tirade. What's the punishment? You say suspend them for the rest. That they're done. The Tennessee Titans are done. Every team that has the Titans on their schedule gets awarded a victory. And then you are suspending Mike Vrabel for the 2021 season.
Absolutely.
And that's it? Are you docking?
He said fines too.
I'm finding players that were involved.
No draft picks?
Oh, yeah, draft picks. You know what?
Just
the other thing about draft
everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you're like the Grinch. You're like the NFL
like
Grinch.
The death penalty in college. They lose recruiting budget in college. SMU, the Mustangs back in that 1983, actually 87 era, they were running amok. This is egregious. So yeah, in fact, the draft picks should go to the teams affected. So the Steelers should get the draft pick. And they're not going to.
First team affected, they should get the first rounder.
Absolutely. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. And everyone's going to get me wrong. I don't want the Steelers to win a game easily. I don't want a game handed to them. I want them to play. But if the Bills lose a game, a team that's 4-0, lose a game, don't have to play
Don't have a game, yeah.
They're going to have a competitive advantage over everybody else. So why is that fair? Make it equal. No soda for you.
You ready for me now, Jeff?
He left crumbs, which were much too small for other whose mouths. Yes. Anyone that has kids that reads the book to their kids as much as I do knows you are the Grinch of the NFL. He's taking it all. Take it all.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
I didn't even swear, guys.
All right. We need to bring this
anyway.
back. We need to put this in a different direction.
I want to know what you would do, Dave.
No. Okay. I'm going to, but I'm just saying I'm not going to rant like Bryan. I'm going to take a much different approach. When it came to the whole notion of a forfeit before, I'm like, no, the Steelers do not want to forfeit. Here's why. Over 100 years of the NFL, never been a forfeit. Do the Steelers want to be that one team that gets the forfeit? No. Play the game, do it that way. But if you're now talking about this continuing on and another team getting a forfeit, that's a whole different story. Because now the Steelers aren't alone in the battle. I'm going to kind of put this out there in a way that we would usually hear from Bad, but he's too worked up to come up with something like this. It's kind of like the whole notion of, you're hanging out with your boys in, high school, college age, and there's a group of girls that you just kind of see over there that they're kind of a little bit different, maybe considered a little bit weird. You're thinking maybe they're a little bit freaky, if you know what I mean. If you venture out just you by yourself and approach one of these girls and maybe it's a little 2 a.m., however you want to say it, you're going to be that guy. You're going to be that one guy left on an island that, the guys are going to ridicule or whatnot. But if you got a wingman that you're both going in and approaching this group and someone wants to give you a hard time, someone else has got your back. If the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers each get a forfeit from this, at least, people are like, oh, the Steelers, hey, so do the Bills, big whoop. They have each other's back. It's kind of like that. You don't want to venture into unknown territory all by yourself. If you want to go, see what someone from that group's from, take the wingman, experience it, not just by yourself.
Okay, no, hold on. No, Bryan, you talked enough, Bryan. Shut up. No,
I just want to say how proud I am of Dave. Okay. Seriously, I'm so proud of Dave right now. I feel like my young Padawan has finally embraced my teachings.
Okay, so thank you, Bryan. Okay, Dave, but still, let's just simplify this. You're the commissioner. What's the punishment?
Cool.
I get what you're saying with, another team had to forfeit. We're not saying that's happened or it's going to happen, but if it did, I get what you're saying. But what is the punishment for the Titans, Roger Goodell?
Oh, it's got to come down hard. I don't know if it's going to go as far as forfeits, because to me, forfeits is like the ultimate punishment. But it's going to be a lot, and I don't think a forfeit should be something that comes along just because, we can't conveniently reschedule this game. No, that's not good enough. Okay. It wasn't convenient for the Steelers to reschedule their game, even though it was possible. So I don't know if they'll go that far, but they are going to come down hard. You are going to see, I don't know if they're going to suspend players beyond this. I think you're going to get front office people and coaches possibly suspended. I don't know that we still have enough details to tell you exactly who, and whatnot. I just like, we know there's apparently it happened more than one time, and we don't know who was involved in those. So this could be a really big deal that comes down, and I would be in favor of it, because they knew what it took to have this season, and one team took it on themselves to basically say, we'll do what we want to do anyway.
If I were Roger Goodell, I'll keep this short and sweet. Then we're going to move on to the Eagles because that's what we're supposed to do here. For me, I would say that if they can't play the Bills game, if that game is going to be forced to be moved, then I say you forfeit week 4, you forfeit week 5. So a 3-0 team becomes 3-2. Yeah. The Steelers get their original bye week back. So the week 8 becomes their bye week again. You don't, they get an extra week. That's not the Steelers' fault. They did nothing wrong. And then they also lose draft picks. They get docked a first and a second round pick. I'll say a first in 2021 and a second in 2022, and then also a hefty fine for Mike Vrabel and company. I think that would be enough to send a message to the rest of the league saying, look, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And so that's exactly what you would have in that situation. So let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Anthony Davis, you were on with Brandon Lee Gouton, my buddy that I met a few years ago at our convention. We had a little meeting down in the district. He is the editor of Bleeding Green Nation. He's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, great website.
Impressive beard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's also a flipping giant. The dude's almost like 7 feet tall. I mean, when you meet him, you're like, oh my gosh. Great guy though. Listen to the podcast. He dropped a lot of knowledge. Guys, I want to ask you one simple question as we start talking about the Eagles. And that is, on paper, you look at the 1-2-1 record, you look at the NFC East and how bad it is right now. You look at a lot of things like the offensive line, and it looks like this is a game the Steelers should just take with ease. But there's always something that scares you about the upcoming game. At least me, there is. So, Brian, I'm going to go with you first. Is there any part of the Eagles, can be offense or defense, doesn't matter, that gives you pause about this Week 5 game at Heinz Field?
Yeah, it's Carson Wentz being able to elude trouble and dumping that ball off to his tight end, Zach Ertz, or to one of those receivers out of the backfield. That's what scares me about this team. I've seen him do it before. Now, Brandon, who, like you said, he's fantastic. Check out that podcast, that Know Your Enemy podcast every week is great. And I'm not even on it. But it's still good. But
well, you were this week.
Yeah, well, I guess I was. But really, that's what scares me about this team. I am not going into this game. I'm not taking this team lightly. They came back on the San Francisco 49ers. They're a couple years ago, not too long ago, they were Super Bowl champions. I don't think you really can take these guys way too lightly, and I wouldn't.
Okay. What about you, Dave? Is there anything that causes pause with this team?
Yeah. Just to real quick say to back up what Brian said there, I actually went on one of Bleeding Green Nation podcasts, and that I think is going to be out tomorrow. And they asked me what I thought of Carson Wentz. And they're like, he's so terribly ranked with all these things in the league. I'm like, as the opposing team, you got to look at the best he can be. And that's what you have to prepare for. So that's the big thing with him, with the inconsistency, is the Steelers need to prepare for him to be able to, he's going to come in and play the best, the best Wentz they've seen before, not the guy that they've seen at other times. But when it comes to what scares me the most from the Eagles, I would say, I don't know how much it scares me, but what I'm paying attention to is their biggest strength by far, in my opinion, is their defensive front. So you've got to pay attention to that defensive front. The offensive line needs to keep doing their thing in order to stand up to that defensive front. And although I think theirs is really good, I still think ours is better.
Well, yeah. But, the Eagles now, you're right. They lead the NFL in sacks. I think they have 17. They've played more games, obviously. The Steelers have 15 in 3 games, but still, that defensive front, Dave, I'm right there with you. That is we've seen the Steelers do it time and time again. It can wreck games. You can wreck a game with a dominant defensive front. And we'll get into our predictions and things like that in the second half of the podcast. But for this part, man, I can't think of anything else. Now, if Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey play, that changes everything. Yeah. I mean, everything. There's a lot of people in the live chat that are like, they're not that good. You put Deshaun Jackson, who's still a deep threat at his age, and Alshon Jeffrey out there. Now, all of a sudden, Carson Wentz has legitimate weapons. He has not had those weapons much, if at all, in 2020. Carson Wentz, although his accuracy has been an issue all season, like Brian said, can still elude pressure, can still run with the football. I hate those quarterbacks. I I loved when they played Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning could never move. He would never, ever, rarely ever move. But Carson Wentz can tuck the ball, can run it. But I think that's a defensive front. Javon Hargrave is a part of a 7 or 8 man rotation. So it's going to be interesting to see how Randy Fichtner, I shudder to think about it, how he and the offensive try to scheme up this game, and do they go with no huddle? But let's talk about this real quick before our first break. Bryan, you said Wentz. You said you're concerned about his ability to evade pressure. What should the Steelers do defensively to try and counteract that? Anything in particular?
They just got to make sure that, I'm going to get killed for this, but you always want to spy. You want to have somebody making sure that he's not getting free on the sides when you're putting pressure in, because when you're bringing it all up the middle and he gets loose, you've got to have somebody that's, watching their back.
Okay. And we will get into the injury report, but Mr. TJ Watt fell on it today. Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know how severe that is. I have not had a chance to listen to one of the best shows in podcasting today, the Steelers injury report. I'm about to do that because that's gospel to me, but I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. But you could probably shine a little light on it for me. But that's always a concern.
Well, what the heck, Dave? The injury report, you read the article. Do you have that handy?
Yeah, I got it right here.
All right, let's do that now.
You want this? Well, the Steelers, I know.
Well, yeah.
That you want to talk Steelers? Or, okay, Steelers. I was trying to get this article ready before the injury report came out, and I had everything predicted perfectly to a T, except them adding TJ Watt today. That was just completely out of the blue, which changed everything. The titles, of course, because that's the headline. That TJ Watt did not practice today because of a knee. He did practice yesterday, so it's something that came back up. But it's also reported that it was, his knees bothered him a little bit. We're just going to hold him off to make sure it's rested up okay. I'm hoping that's the case. Tomorrow's the day where we find out. Derek Watt did not make it back. Marcus Allen did not make it back. Those two were trending in the wrong direction. This might be that we get to see the UG3 active for the first time this season.
That's true.
Because that's who would come in place of Allen, most likely. And I don't know what the Steelers would do at fullback. Probably just not use one.
Vance McDonald did that week 3, actually.
Because that's all they had. Do they have someone like Zach Gentry active, so they have another tight end, so they could have a tight end at fullback? Do they elevate someone like Trey Edmonds, although they did not protect him this week like they did the week before, because he did some fullback last year? Or are they saying we use it so infrequently we're just not going to worry about it? You know what I'm saying?
I'll go with the latter.
Yeah, that's when it comes to offense, and you're going to really miss Derek Watt on the special teams.
Yeah,
but when it comes to the Eagles, they had 2 players that did not practice. Their cornerback, Avonte Maddox, who, according to the Bleeding Green Nation guy I talked to today, he's not playing. He says he's not playing this week. Alshon Jeffrey did not participate. This was due to illness. So
he was limited. He was limited on Wednesday, correct?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I don't have that in front of me because they don't.
That wasn't with an illness. That wasn't with an illness. The illness is new. I think he was limited with an ankle or something like that.
He had an injury, and then it was an illness today. So he's been around long enough. If he could practice on Friday, he's all right. But your limited was wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, and that's a hamstring. It might be that he tries to go and then he can't, because a hamstring for a receiver, that's not a good one. Then you have tackle Lane Johnson was limited with an ankle, and safety Rodney is that McLeod, but spelled differently? It's not spelled like Ray. He has a hamstring. He was limited. Everyone else was back to full, like the other wide receiver, the JJ hyphenated. Yeah, that's the best I can do. He was back to full. And then like Jason Kelsey, he was a full participant today as well, their center.
Yeah. So Bryan's point, he brought up being spying, Carson Wentz defensively, and TJ Watt not playing. If he didn't, if you're listening to this, don't wreck your car if you're driving. I didn't say that he's not playing. If he didn't play, we'll see what Friday's report says about TJ Watt. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't even have a designation, if he's a full participant, just like Juju Smith-Schuster in week 3, where he missed Wednesday and Thursday and practiced on Friday and was fine. But Dave, you bring up the defensive front. That's your concern coming into this game. And I echo that sentiment. What should the Steelers do offensively, you think, to kind of really counteract that?
Play hard. No. You think I'm crazy?
He's not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
The offensive line needs to show up. The offensive line can't have a bad day. They need to have a good day. If they have a good day, they're fine. So I don't know that the Steelers have to scheme anything else.
Play hard.
They got to go out. They got to go out and put their hand in the dirt, and they got to push them harder than what they're pushing back.
I'm going to go, because my concern was the same as yours. I'm going to say that I think the Steelers should definitely do a lot of hurry up, muddle huddle, no huddle type offense to try to limit their substitutions. If Fletcher Cox is on the field, he's going to tire quickly. Don't let them substitute. And my gosh, please get 3 wide receivers out there. I would love to see this be the game where they put Chase Claypool out there more than they have recently. Let the young stud run. Get in the football. The one thing that everyone's forgetting is one of his most impressive plays for me was the play that he fumbled in week 3 in Houston. It was just that quick wide receiver screen. He's just such a giant of a man. Get him the ball in space. Let him do work on those smaller defensive backs. That's what I'd like the Steelers to do on offense. But, it's tough to beat the expert analysis of play hard.
Hey, if you play harder than the other team, a lot of times you can win.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, hey, we're at the midway point. If you're an audio platform, make sure you go over and check out part 2. I don't know why you would after that. But anyways, if you're on YouTube, stay tuned. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right back for the second part of the Steelers preview. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, we are back with part 2 of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me as always is Play Hard Dave Schofield, the other co-editor, and Bryan Anthony Davis, Mr. Soapbox today. So if you listen to part 1, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not listening to part 1, go back and listen to part 1. You'll understand those little inside jokes there. So, let's hear Russ. You guys, who's bringing this up? We don't care. Okay. All right. So let's get into some X factors here. This is typically the second part of the show where we kind of break down the upcoming game. We give our predictions. We talk about a lot of different things over under. So Bryan, we'll start with you. X factor. Who is your X factor for this upcoming game? Offense or defense doesn't matter. Or do we normally split it up? One offense and one defense? Yeah, we do. Don't we?
I don't know.
You guys don't even know. All right, let's do one offensive line.
Bryan went off, and I haven't heard his voice since. I don't know that Bryan spoke for 20 minutes.
Let's
Jeff
do one off.
Talk.
Oh, funny. That's hysterical. Let's go with one offense and one defense. Let's do offense first. Go ahead, Bryan.
Well, you know what I'm going to say on offense? I'm going to say all 11 guys because I have an insider in the Steeler locker room that said they're going to try to win this game this weekend. So that's really what the game plan is. What's the game plan? They're going to try to win. And they're going to play hard. You know what? I joke about the whole team, but I'm going to take a unit here, and I'm going to say the offensive line really needs to be an X factor. The way Dave explained and the defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles earlier, yeah, they bring it to you. Ben Roethlisberger and myself, I still have flashbacks of Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham from a few years ago in 2016, just like all over that team. I remember back in the Super Bowl year when Ben Roethlisberger was sacked 7 times in Philadelphia against this team, and that was week 3, and that was a Super Bowl season. They always seem to go after the Steelers. Look, this offensive line really has to step up in this game, and they need to be the X factor on offense to protect Ben, to make sure that there is not a turnover, a pick 6, or a strip sack and a touchdown. That's a possibility here with this defensive line. I think it's the strength of this team. So the offensive line, they're my X factor.
What about you, Dave? Offensive X factor.
I'm going with the man. I'll go with Ben Roethlisberger. He needs to take care of the ball. He needs to, he seemed kind of upset Wednesday when he was talking about how everything went down and they didn't play last week. So, and he said, well, we were on a roll and now we got to start over. He needs to just make sure he's not starting over and he's picking it right back up where the whole offense picking it right back up where they were. And it's not just his play on the field. I like Jeff's idea of that's other than just play hard, you could help the offensive line by going up tempo. And if they're going up tempo and they're going no huddle, guess who's calling those plays? One Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. So it's not just his play, it's also going to be his ability to make those calls on the field.
I kind of alluded to this at the end of part one, and I think it's Chase Claypool. I don't know what it is. It's just like one of those gut feelings. They're coming off a bye week. I feel like they might have maybe installed some stuff that would get him the ball. I just really hope that he turns into a game breaker and not just a decoy, someone that can get deep. Ben seems to have a decent connection with him already. And for a rookie, that's important. We know this. If Ben trusts you, he's going to get you the football. He should be that guy, though, that can, maybe if it's just red zone, really getting him involved. But it's going to come down to the offense and Fiedner and Ben getting him on the field and actually utilizing him for what he can do. I love James Washington and everything that he brings to the team, but I'd rather see more Chase Claypool. That's just me. It's just my own personal opinion. I think that Claypool could break this game open. We've seen him do it before. He can get behind a defense. He's tough to bring down because he's 6'4", 230, and runs a 4.40. The kid's a freak. So use him. I'm sick of seeing everyone talking about CeeDee Lamb and all these other rookie wide receivers. Chase Claypool, in my opinion, is just as good. Let's see him be featured for once. And it'll only open up things for Juju and Deontay anyways. So let's see that happen. I would love to see that happen. Let's go defense. Defensive X Factor, Brian. What do you have?
Alvin Bud Dupree is going to be facing Jordan Mailata from Australia as the left tackle. Now, yeah, and I'm not going to try
Jennifer Lopez.
I don't really, they actually have two Australians. So the guys on Down Under, they're going to talk about the punter and the left tackle the entire show. So just be ready for that, I'm sure. But you know what? And I'm not going to try to do my accent because I don't want to embarrass you guys. I've already embarrassed you with the greatest Yinzer accent of all time. So I'm not going to embarrass you guys. But Mailata is kind of he's put in a tough spot. That offensive line is in flux. Talking to Brandon Lee Gouton yesterday on Know Your Enemy, he is concerned about the entire team actually, but he's really concerned about what the Steelers can do against Mailata, who is not really completely protecting Carson Wentz. You saw what we don't really know how good the Washington football team is with those 7 sacks. If that's a great defense or not, because they had those 7 sacks in game 1, and that offensive line was a mess. So Alvin Bud Dupree needs to be in his face, that being Mailata, and on his back, meaning Wentz, and finish him. Like John Kreese of Cobra Kai says, finish him, sweep the leg, no mercy, Alvin Bud Dupree.
David Schofield, go ahead.
Oh, he took my answer. Which was a good answer. You know what? I'm gonna package that together and I'll say TJ Watt, assuming he plays, because I like with both their edge rushers, they need to get home, but they also have to get home in a way that they're not allowing Wentz outside the pocket constantly. I mean, it's going to happen maybe some, but as long as it's not constantly killing you, it's okay. I think this is all about the defense, the pass rush, getting home, keeping the run game the way they have, but more importantly, keeping that pocket closed in and not letting them outside.
You all talk about the edge rushers, and rightfully so. I think they deserve all the credit in the world. Bud and TJ have been phenomenal. I think it's time that the defensive front, and I'm talking about i.e. Cam Hayward or Stephon Tuitt, pick your poison. Can they please take over a game? We haven't seen it yet. We've seen TJ do his thing. We've seen Bud do his thing. I want to see, and we've seen Tyson Alualu do his thing. Haven't seen Tuitt or Hayward yet really flash, in my opinion. Hayward's had decent numbers. He's always going to have decent numbers, but we haven't seen them have those games where they have 2.5, 3 sacks. Maybe this is the game because if they're going to put that much attention on the bookends, should lead to some one-on-ones on the interior, and that's where those two guys should feast, period. So my defensive X factor is either Hayward or Tuitt. It doesn't matter. You pick whichever one you want. All right, let's do some over-under. Y'all ready?
Ready.
Okay, week 5 edition, over-under. This is a little bit tougher because it depends on what you think this game is going to look like. Since I set the lines here, you're going to kind of get a feel for what I think this game is going to be. Ben Roethlisberger touchdown passes. This game, the line is set at 1.5. Dave, you taking the over or the under?
Over.
How many do you think?
2.
All right, very good. Bryan Anthony
He's just
Davis?
averaging 2. Let's go.
You're right. No, you're right. Go ahead, Bryan.
Over.
How many are you thinking?
3.
Wow. Okay, I will take the over, but
3.
I'll take the over, but with 2. All right, Ben sacks, meaning him getting sacked. The sacks surrendered by the Steelers' offensive line. The over-under is set at 3. Dave, what are your thoughts?
That's the number I would have come up with. I'm going.
See, I'm Vegas, man. I know.
I know. Go West. Under.
Okay, I like it. Bryan?
Push. 3.
Yeah, that's
okay.
He do it for push.
I think that they're going to be super concerned, and you're not going to see him putting himself in a lot of opportunities to get sacked. I think it's going to be a quick passing game. They'll take their shots, but they're going to be smart about it. I'm going to say the under, too. James Conner rushing yards. The line set at 90. Dave, over under.
Over.
You think over? You think over 100?
Going.
Okay.
Yep.
Keep the streak alive. I like it. Bryan Anthony Davis.
Under, but not by much. 84.
I take the under as well. I think he goes around 80. I think you see McFarland and Snell have some better numbers this game. They're going to rush for well over 100 as a unit, but not individually. I think that streak ends this weekend on Sunday. Turnovers, meaning the Steelers turning the ball over. That streak ended in week 3. Does a new streak begin? The over-under line is set at 1. Dave?
Push.
You think they turn the ball over, so they're back on the street, starting a new one.
There's the they are right on the edge of if some big kind of weather's coming through. They're right now. It's projected it's going to be they're going to miss it. They're going to go just south of them. But if that shifts a little bit over the next couple of days, you could be talking about a big rain fest on Sunday, or it could be a beautiful day. They're really close to that line. So if the rain comes out, I think that might cause a lot of turnovers. But when you go into a game and when you assume they're going to have 0, then you get disappointed. I'm like, let's just go with 1.
Thank you, Joe DiNardo, for the weather update. Bryan Anthony over under 1 turnover.
Look, aisle 5 is not cleaned up yet. I want to go push, but I'm going to say over. Take 2.
Ooh.
All right, I'm going to say under. I'll go ahead and say it. They keep the streak alive. They don't turn it over. What about takeaways now? Defensive takeaways. Over under set at 1.5. So there's no pushing this time. Dave, what do you think?
Way over. I'm going 3.
Whoa. All right. Bryan?
David, I see your 3 and I raise you 1. Let's go 4.
Are you serious? 4 turnover for takeaways?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
I'm going to take the under with 1. All right. And then sacks on Mr. Wentz. The line is set at 4.5. Dave, over under.
I'm going over with 5.
Okay. Bryan?
Over with 5.
I'm going to take the over with 6. I think they're going to get to him early enough, and I think that sometimes he's going to run into some sacks, but it still count. Last one, defensive points allowed. I don't want to get into our predictions, so I'm not going to talk about the offense, but defensive points allowed over under 16.5. Dave, what do you think?
Under. My explanation will come when we do our predictions.
All right,
under,
Bryan Anthony Davis.
Under and what he said.
I'm going to take the over and what they said. All right, let's get to those predictions. Dave, hit us with the spread. Hit us with the spread, the most up-to-date spread, and then we're going to talk about our predictions. Go ahead.
Up to date with, I think I refreshed it 6 minutes ago, where Pittsburgh is still a 7-point favorite. That hasn't changed. The over-under has fluctuated between 44 and 45, and right now it's at 44 and a half. So 7-point spread, 44 and a half over and under.
Well, why don't you go ahead, Dave, and get us started with your picks?
Okay, my pick is I have the Steelers covering, and I have the total under, because I have my final score prediction, which I had to give to Bleeding Green Nation earlier today. I have the final score of the Steelers are coming out ticked off about what's happened with them. They're not going to start slow. They're going to start well. They're going to finish well. They're going to keep performing well out of the bye. I have 31-9.
Oh, all right. That's a weird score. I like it though. Bryan, go ahead.
Keep that one on the down low, Dave. Daddy like the DL. I messed up the joke, but so I used to use that all the time. All right. You got to we're going to go with the under here. And I've already made my prediction on Know Your Enemy. I felt like I was cheating on you guys, but make my prediction, but I had to do it. 26-16 in favor of the Steelers.
Okay. I think that this game is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. Could it be a blowout like Dave's predicting? Sure. But Dave's told me, I listened to his Stat Geek, and we've talked about a bunch, this team, although they do well off the bye, they don't do offensively. They don't do that well. They come out slow. Am I right, Dave? That's what you said.
Yes. They've only had the first quarter's bad. The first quarter's bad.
Yes. That has me concerned a little bit about how the outcome, what this would look like. I don't see them coming out of the gate guns a-blazing as much as I would love that. I think this is going to come down to a field goal. I don't see the Steelers covering here. I think the Steelers win the game. I'm going to go with the final score, Pittsburgh 20, Philadelphia 17. They always play Pittsburgh tough. I cannot remember the last time that the Pittsburgh Steelers routed the Eagles. It might be in 2004, the game that Bryan, what was the final of that game, Bryan, that you all just did on the retro show?
Oh my gosh. Was it 27-10 maybe?
Yeah, and that's not even, I wouldn't even say that's a blowout, but that's probably the biggest winning margin that the Steelers have had over the Eagles in, Ben Roethlisberger's career. So I just, again, if they come out and blow their doors off, I would be happy to take the L on this. But I'm sorry, I just don't see it happening. I think the Steelers might come out a little sluggish from the bye, maybe a little distracted. 20-17. Take the Eagles getting the points, but take the Steelers and the under straight up. So that's my pick. There you go. All right.
Hey, Jeff, real quick,
yes,
it was 27-3.
Oh, but that's very good. It's a lot better than what you said. That's fine. That was a great game to watch. That was a great game to watch. I remember that game.
And it's a great game to remember. So check out the retro show on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
That was after the Halloween game against the Patriots, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I was in the stands for both of those games.
Didn't the Steelers also beat the Patriots on another Halloween? That was the game where Lamar Woodley had a really good game against Tom Brady. But was that not on Halloween as well?
That was 2011, and because of leap year, it wouldn't have been, but it was right around.
I don't know that it was on Halloween day, but I do know that I was late to taking my kids to a trunk or treat because I had to finish watching that game, and I went in full gear, of course, to that because everyone's like, just beat the Patriots. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm wearing everything.
Day before, October 30th.
Yeah.
There you go. I knew it was around there. And then I also remember a Halloween game against the Saints down in New Orleans where James Harrison got flagged for a really bogus roughing the passer call on Drew Brees. Ended up turning the tide. They lost that game. Anyways, trivia time, Dave. Let me put my dunce cap on.
Okay.
All right, we're good. We're good to go. Let's do some trivia.
All right. Well, we were talking about the Steelers sacks, and I talked about how I said that I think they'll have at least 5 this week. I think they could have more. This could be one that they could be set up to get a bunch, but a lot of times when they're set up to get a bunch is when they don't get as many as you think. But the Steelers are second in the league right now in sacks, only behind the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Eagles have an extra game. So I got to thinking, okay, what about the quarter mark, as we say, the quarter pole of the season? what would the Steelers need sack-wise to like set any kind of team record? Any idea how many sacks they would need on Sunday in order to set the franchise record for the most sacks to start the first 4 games of the season?
So how many sacks they would need
to
in
move
the first
into?
quarter?
Yes.
Shoot, this is tough because you got to think back to the years that they started off really fast defensively.
Is this all post-merger?
Let's just say this. It can be because the answer is post-merger.
Okay.
Of what they'd have to, but there's some other ones that are also in there as well.
I'm going to say 7. They're going to need 7 in this game to do it. Brian, what do you think?
Let's go with 3. Let's say the record is 18.
Let's split the difference. Because the answer is what I predicted them to have would be 5. That would put them at 20 sacks in the first 4. The record right now is 19, and that was in 1983, where they had 19 sacks in their first 4 games. Only went 2-2 in those 4 games. They are currently right now, if they get no sacks, well, first of all, that would stink because that would break the streak. But if they just get 1, they move into a tie for second because they had 16 sacks. But remember, we can go before 1982. That's when they started sacks as individuals, but they kept track of them most years as a team stat. In both 1954 and 1963, they had 16 sacks in the first 4 games. But the Steelers have a chance to set that record on Sunday with 5 or more.
There you go. Brian, anything to say?
Yeah, I tell you what, that was a great sacking season. You had Mike Merriweather just going off, and Keith Willis had a fantastic year as well. So, those are 2 guys that I can think of right off the top of my head as just being amazing. I'm surprised did they break the team? Were they the team record 83 for the entire season? Dave?
Oh, I could look that up rather quickly if you guys give me, I don't know, 90 seconds.
Okay, 90 seconds it is. We'll fill that spot.
Oh, I can't talk that long, guys.
You mean how many sacks they had for the season?
Yes, if it was the record.
It was not the record at the time because in 1974 they had 52, and in 1983 they got to 50. So, and we know the record now is
56.
for the season, 56 from 2017. Yes. But I think it's going to be a new record this year, but that's just me. And it's going to start with a 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I asked the live chat for some questions. We'll see if we get some. In the meantime, think about this. So this is something that Bryan does every week. Bold was our predictions. Okay. I love the article. It's the only reason he keeps doing it. People might hate it. It actually is a pretty good traffic article in terms of page views. Think about a bold prediction for this game real quick. Like I have one, as you all think, I have one. My bold prediction is Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to get an interception this game. Okay, that's my bold prediction. Might not be that bold. He hasn't touched a football yet this season, though. Dave, what about yours? What's your bold prediction?
Yeah, this is kind of reminding me they do something similar on Steelers touchdown under, that they do a little something like this. My bold prediction is the Steelers will score a touchdown on their opening drive.
Whoa, Brian, what about you? Bold prediction.
The Steelers get a sack strip and a fumble, and it's courtesy of one Bougie Smith-Schuster. Not Juju, but his dog.
Holy cow, Jeffrey Benedict's bold prediction. He said Terrell Edmonds gets an interception this week. Wow, that is
that's
courageous.
Yes.
I would love it. I would love it.
That's a hot take.
Yeah. You ready for some of these questions?
Yeah, do you want to put them up on the screen?
Yeah, I'll do it. Here we go.
What defender needs to step up the most in the Steelers' quest for for more turnovers? That's from DJ2TYT only.
You messed that up worse than bad. Come on.
What defender needs to step up the most? I don't know. I want to say I want to see more from Minkah.
Yeah, that's.
And I think that Carson Wentz is bold enough that he's not going to avoid him intentionally. So you think about all the other quarterbacks they faced this year, like Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, or Jeff Driscoll, and then Deshaun Watson is still a smart quarterback. He doesn't have the weapons. I just see Carson Wentz as like a gunslinger. It's like, I don't care if it's Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm going to beat him anyways. Well, Minka's going to win that battle if you do. That's who I think. Who you all think?
I agree.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Devin Bush here.
Okay.
All right.
I believe he's the linchpin. And just to shed a light, I asked this the other day on our show on The Hangover, DJ 2YT only. I always have trouble with that. It's Derek Jeter 2. Yankees. I guess that's what I don't know what the T's for.
Sorry.
That's what it's for.
Okay.
All right. Respect.
This was a question for my show on Tuesday. I want to get your guys' answer.
Bryan and Jeff, will the Steelers hold the Eagles under 200 total yards? That's tough with them not throwing any flags anymore. I'm going to say that they will not hold them under 200 total yards. I don't think they'll be over 300, but I think they'll be over 2. Bryan, what do you think?
I agree with Jeff. I'm going to say about 250.
I'll give you my answer from Tuesday. I said the magic number is 7. If the Steelers can get to 7 or more sacks, they will take away enough yards that will put them down under 200.
That's a good point.
That's what I said. So I thought that was a very geeky answer. So Jay Hicks.
Will Ben Roethlisberger throw for 400 yards? Oh, will he have a 400-yard game this season? I thought it was just this week. Yes, I think he will. I think that he is. You look at some of the deep passes he missed in week 3 against Houston. If he connects on 2 of those, completely changes the dynamic of his stat line. I think he's going to start dialing in on some of those deep balls. I think he absolutely has a 400-yard game this season. Bryan, what do you think?
I think he can. I'll probably say yes. I don't think he needs to.
That's basically my answer. If Ben's going to have a 400-yard game this season, it's going to be one of those games where they're playing a team that they're going to be, possibly trailing and needing to come from behind and win, things like that. That's going to be the scenario. Most of the time you don't want to see Ben go over 300 yards because they are just controlling the game. So
Ben's pissed off though. He's angry right now. He wants to light the world on fire. Nicholas Martinez says, do you think Claypool will get more snaps and eventually overtake James Washington? I say yes. If you listen to my X Factor earlier, I think the time is now to at least give him more snaps, more opportunities. It stinks because you got to put someone on the bench, but I think yes. Bryan, what do you think?
I actually think no. I think that James Washington is going to continue to get a lot of balls thrown his way. Claypool's going to come close, but JW13, he's still got a huge place on this team.
Dave?
All right, I guess a better answer. I'm going to say I don't think it needs to be a replacement. I just think they need to continue to work everybody. I'd like to see the 2 of them on the field at the same time. And I have to say before I click off this, that's some pretty impressive wood that we're talking about there. For those of you that don't watch you on YouTube, it's the picture.
Yeah.
So I'm now trying to find the next one. Anyone else see one? My live chat skipped.
Oh boy.
So I'm trying to come back.
Here we go. Russ says, do you think that the tight ends will have a big game against the Eagles? Bryan, what do you think?
Yes, I think they do.
And which one in particular?
Vance McDonald.
Really? Okay,
Yep.
Dave.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I've been liking what he's been doing in the run game, and if they're going to be out there running up tempo, that means Vance should be out there on the field. So I think they could have some more possibilities with him. Jeff,
I was reading other questions.
We'll give you Seattle has 2 losses.
Baker Mayfield sucks.
One in doubt.
Baker Mayfield sucks. All right, we'll do one more.
Mm-hmm.
When will we see more 3 safety sub package defense with Sean Davis, Minkah, and Terrell Evans on the field at the same time? This is kind of like the ongoing question of where is Sean Davis, not where is Carmen Sandiego, where is Sean Davis? I don't know. Bryan, what do you think?
I'm going to defer. The only X's and O's that I know is in tic-tac-toe, my friend.
Okay, Dave.
I think I said this to you before, Jeff. I can't remember where. I think Sean Davis is strictly, he's the insurance policy in case someone goes down. It's not like they need to work him into anything. I think when it comes to some sub package, I think Cam Sutton's the guy that's going to do sub package, but Sean Davis is the guy that can step in place of injury.
Insurance policy. That's what he is right now. He's just an insurance policy. I don't think they're going to utilize him as a weapon, not anytime soon, pretty much. So we'll see. All right. Final thoughts on this episode before we call it a show. Bryan, go ahead.
I'm really excited about this Pittsburgh Steeler this Pittsburgh Steeler team. I really think that they are not making a big deal out of the Tennessee Titans situation. I think we as fans, me included, are making a bigger deal about it. They're business as usual. When Mike Tomlin says, "We don't care, just play hard," even though he didn't say it, but we're adding that to his quote now. When he's saying we don't care, they don't care. They're not thinking about any of this stuff. They're thinking about going out and playing the Eagles and doing what they do. I said it all along. I'm not going to stop saying this. This is a special team. They're not going to be flashy. They're not going to be a number one seed, but they're going to go out and take care of business. There
you go, Dave Schofield.
Yeah, it's okay for the Steelers to play this game with a chip on your shoulder. It's the defense. I'm hoping it's a perfect storm. That's why I only picked the Eagles to score 9 points, but between being ticked off about last week, between getting some fans back into the stands, between finally playing a game when you played all 3 of your games in 13 days to start, and now it'll be 13 games since you had played a game. It's time for them to step out there and just really take it to them.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they can send a message. If you want to, you think the 1-2-1 Eagles are as bad as their record indicates and the NFC East is as bad as they are, go out and pull off a win like Dave predicted. I mean, really, really send a message, because everyone right now is saying, the Steelers aren't that good. They're letting teams hang around. This is a message game. This is a game you can really send a message. So we'll see how that pans out. In the meantime, thank you all for listening. If you're in YouTube live chat, we appreciate you as always. Great live chat tonight. Also, anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Anchor, Pandora, Spotify, you name it, follow us, subscribe. If you like the content, give us a 5-star rating, give us a good comment. We really appreciate it. It helps with our exposure. And BehindTheSteelCurtain.com should be your one-stop shop for all things Steelers. We appreciate everything. Make sure you check us out over the weekend with the Touchdown Under, Steelers Brunch with Tony, the Steelers pregame show, and then 2 of the 3 of us will be on after the 1 o'clock game on Sunday for the Steelers postgame, so check it out. In the meantime, everyone, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the game. Go Steelers. Hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be talking about the 4-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Be safe. We'll talk to you.
Hey.